Hey everybody. This is gonna be episode 5 of the diary. I just got back from Singapore with Team Liquid yesterday. It was like a 4-day trip, 5 if you count all the traveling. So pretty hectic. I mean, I'm not gonna complain about my job at the end of the day. I find myself like, oh, I'm exhausted, but it was a lot of networking, a lot of free meals. And we were reviewing some Alienware products to be coming out in the future, of which I cannot elaborate on for obvious reasons. Um, so yeah, I just got done with a week and a half of Dutch school and then Singapore with Team Liquid. So part of my job and something that was still in the Netherlands, and then uh, it was like school effectively. It felt like. So it's like when I lay it out like that, it doesn't feel like my life has been too hectic, but it's been out of my comfort zone for the last week and a half. And so whenever I'm evaluating stuff like this, whether it's a trip or any experience, I'm kind of asking myself, is this throwing me out of my groove? Like, is my like kind of circadian rhythm or my weekly rhythm kind of thrown off? And this kind of thing definitely does do that. And I think last year I didn't do a great job of resetting myself after I had long trips like Riyadh, for instance, like EWC, um, the Dream Leagues. Like, I didn't do a great job of restoring my routine. So my mission since I've gotten back is to hatch a plan. Like, I hatched a plan before I left, of with the sole goal of by Monday, because today is Friday and I arrived back on Thursday, that by Monday I want to feel like as close as I can that I'm just starting another week, that life has resumed. So yeah, yesterday I used to always have pressure to be like on myself. Like, I pressured myself to be super productive and super like, oh, I got home. I just got done with like an easy trip. Because there was a lot of socializing and stuff. But in reality, I'm trying not to focus on like what actually happened during the trip and just being honest with myself and say that was exhausting. That was 2 14-hour flights in a 5-day period, and um, being in an unfamiliar environment and just travel in general can be pretty exhausting. So yesterday, I told myself I am going to, because my plane arrived at 8 a.m. So I'm like, my goal today is to stay up. I don't care what else happens. I don't care about being productive and doing a bunch of stuff I need to do when I get home. I am going to stay up until like midnight, which is my normal sleeping time, and I'm going to go to sleep. And that actually worked pretty well. I played a lot of like Path of Exile and stuff, and watched some YouTube stuff like this. And I felt like yesterday was insanely productive because my goal was to wake up today and work out and run some errands and take care of some future planning, which is actually what I did today. So the whole idea of like, this is my purpose of doing something has kind of been the theme of this. It doesn't really matter what the details are. It more so matters what I'm trying to accomplish. And trusting that if I didn't accomplish it this time, that I would do better in the future. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm really set on this year is whenever my job or anything else disrupts my normal rhythm, to just kind of hone the process of how I get back into the swing of things. And I think that applies to a lot of people. I don't think you have to travel. You can just have random obligations in life that kind of throw you for a loop. And this would apply to you. But so that's been a lot this week. So I know two episodes ago I talked a lot about dopamine and addiction and all that. And that was a lot more of the learning phase. I have been steadily gathering, lessons to be learned, talking points to be had on the subject over the last like 6 months to a year. I remember learning about it from Dr. K back in like April or May of last year, which was just a lot about like the war that technology is waging on us, and how, we're not even aware that we're fighting against something, that we're swimming up against the tide, and we're not even aware that there is a tide. It's kind of like how I interpreted it. And so I feel like the podcast with Anna Limke Limka kind of finalized my information gathering phase, because I feel like now I understand how I work. At least, there's always something to be learned, but I have a good idea of how I work and how I operate. And so a lot of the last week, ever since I finished Dutch school, was gathering awareness of just how often in my life I'm experiencing like addictive behaviors, and really defining what that means for me. And also, quite frankly, observing other people and just seeing how addictive their behaviors are. One thing I'll tell you is, once you look through life in this lens, you'll see that virtually everybody is addicted to something. It's actually quite scary. Even people I would consider healthy and successful. That was a bit disturbing this week. Not disturbing in the sense that there's something wrong with these people. It's just disturbing in the sense that your recalibration of reality and expectations. I had to do a little of that. I had to do a little recalibration of how I perceive the world. And that's always not the most pleasant thing, but I always enjoy that recalibration process. So that was a lot of this week. One thing that I thought about a lot in regards to this is that with a lot of addictive behaviors, it's really easy to spin the story to such that it doesn't feel that addictive. And I also learned a lot about, when reading the Dopamine Nation book while I was traveling, which makes sense, that somebody who's in an incredibly stressful situation, stressful part of their life, or they're coming from a country or a situation where their surroundings don't naturally provide for them. So basically, either your needs, like your basic needs, are not being met, or you're in a highly stressful situation, one or the other, is that you are much more prone to seeking instant gratification. And that a lot of addictive behaviors do provide instant gratification. And last year, when I got hacked, it was a pretty brutal process for me, to be honest. It took a huge toll on me. I remember I started playing a phone game, like one of those phone games where you like grind your way up and you like slowly build your characters to be slightly stronger, and it's all about like everything's on a timer. You have to wait like 3 hours to go do something. And for a while, I was playing this game, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal, because I probably played 15 to 20 minutes a day, which, like, if I were to describe it to you, I was like, yeah, I play this phone game 15 to 20 minutes a day, then I don't think most of you would consider that an addictive behavior, right? But the thing about that phone game, amongst other things, like this is just an example, is that I started like planning my day around, okay, I can only do this certain thing every 4 hours or every 6 hours, so I need to check my phone every 4 hours or 6 hours to upgrade this thing or whatever. So even though it only took like a 1 minute process in the middle of the game, I was almost beginning to plan my day around this thing. And not only that, but every time I was not able to plan my day around it because I was super busy, I was looking for opportunities where I didn't have anything to do, no one to talk to, no responsibilities for like a moment, and I would go play this game. And I think similarly, when it comes to like doom scrolling, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, a lot of these things are things we do when we don't have anything else to immediately do right now. And our brain just wanders, and then it does those things. And so the phone game specifically, it's a bit more extreme because I'm planning around it. I'm trying to play it. Even though I really only played 15 minutes a day, that phone game was probably on my mind a much larger portion of the day. And it almost certainly served as some sort of distraction for me. Just in general, like, it's just in the background of my mind all day long. And so I did quit the phone game maybe in like October or something. I think I played for like a month and a half. I played from like September until October, and I remember thinking back then, like, yeah, this is not good for me. I remember thinking that, and so yeah, this week I kind of was drawing upon like all this stuff I was learning and thinking about was making me recall that phone game, and then I was kind of applying like, okay, I see how I did that back then, and I wish if I knew what I knew now and was able to articulate it that way, then like my understanding of that phone game experience and what happened to me when I was really stressed out from the hack definitely makes more sense, because as I mentioned, like, if you're in a stressful situation or society's not providing for you, you are more prone to seek instant gratification, instant relief, instant distraction from the shit, the bad stuff going on in your life right now. And that dopamine hit that I got from making my character stronger in that game was effectively my drug of choice at that time. And it's crazy how our brain finds a way to relieve itself, to take away some of the pain or a lot of it. And that seems to be our driving motivation, our driving factor. And a lot of the book that Anna Limke talks about is your tolerance to pain and your tolerance to pleasure are a thing. We think of like tolerance to drugs, but what we don't think about, at least I didn't think about, was that if you avoid pain at all costs, that your tolerance to pain goes down, and then you become more easily aggravated, irritated, discomforted, pain in general. You become much more sensitive to, whether it's emotional, physical, anything, mental. And it also goes down, or the tolerance to pleasure also goes up or down. So if I'm always doing things that I find fun or stimulating or enjoyable, like gaming all day long, then my tolerance for pleasure goes way up, right? And then I effectively find nothing else meaningful. And I've heard this type of story from a lot of gamers, a lot of them. So I know this is not just me. Apologize if you're watching this and you feel a bit called out. But one thing I kind of realized was how I instantly realized how often I was avoiding minor discomforts, minor things. The one that really hit me, it's the most basic example, was the shower in my Singaporean hotel was in a weird situation where I had to be literally underneath the shower in order to turn it on. So I'm the type of person that turns the shower on, leaves it running for like 30 seconds so that it heats up, and then I go in the shower. And I was so uncomfortable underneath that like luke cold water that I actually became anxious to take a shower, which is like the weirdest thing to describe out loud. And I just realized, I'm like, holy shit, like I am so afraid of this minor discomfort. I can just turn the shower a little bit this way. It's going to spray on me a bit, but that's fine. I just have to be ready for it and just reframe this as like, that sucks, but it's like not a big deal. And the second I did that, it's like just back to normal, showering as if nothing ever happened. Like, and it was all about my mental approach to this. And this just serves kind of like as an analogy or like a, symbol of how I was avoiding so many, a representation, not a symbol, a representation of how many minor discomforts I was avoiding and how that made me more anxious, because if you avoid minor discomforts, then your calibration to a minor discomfort will change. So every time you're avoiding more and more minor discomforts, suddenly this shower became a big deal, which in the grand scheme of things, it sounds like the dumbest shit ever, like when I say it out loud, right? And this is an example. I'm an anxious person, so it's an example of having bad thoughts, like just like thoughts I don't want to have before I go to sleep, and making it difficult for me to sleep recently. And part of it was just like I would try to consume technology or something to distract myself so I could finally go to sleep. And it's like, holy shit, that's like another way that I'm trying to avoid discomfort. My thoughts can be just uncomfortable sometimes. And if I run away from those thoughts, I actually give them a lot more power. So the second that I'm no longer consuming a Twitch stream or Reddit thread or anything, suddenly I'm stuck with all of these uncomfortable thoughts that are even more uncomfortable to me because I've been avoiding them. So that was kind of the realization I had this week. This is like, you know, phase 1 of awareness gathering. That's taken place since this whole dopamine thing. So I mentioned the phone game. The one behavioral change I'm really trying to make is this understanding of things that I do only because I don't have anything else to do. This is like, for me, like a very clear-cut category. And my number one perpetrator of this was Reddit. So I have removed Reddit from my phone. And I said it's okay to look at Reddit if I'm like at my computer. And I'm like, you know, I don't feel like I'm getting distracted from work by looking at Reddit. But I am like, you know, in bed about to go to sleep and I see Reddit and then I just look at it, you know, for like, and suddenly it's been 15 minutes. Suddenly it's been 30 minutes. Suddenly it's been an hour. So I got rid of Reddit on my phone. I moved Instagram and Twitter like really, really far back in my phone because there's stuff I need for my job, but I don't want to be stuck on those either. And moving forward, I'm going to kind of monitor if there's anything else on my phone that I specifically say my phone because your phone is just on you all the time. So you have that ability to be distracted instantly. So yeah, I encourage you guys to do the same. Think about things that you do only because you have nothing else to do. I think they're some of the most dangerous habits we have. That's my own take. Yeah, my goal is not to make any politics out of this video, but I also want this to be things that I've been thinking about. So this last week for me has been relatively disturbing. Specifically, the whole Nazi salute that Elon Musk gave. I think that required another calibration of reality for me. You know, I had a perception of reality prior to that. And then I saw that and how some of the most powerful people in the world were there and nobody said or did anything. I'll be honest, that scared the shit out of me. And it created a lot of anxiety. And it created a lot of, you know, I have learned in the past as well that humans are biologically wired to detect threats and to inform themselves about threats, or at least perceived threats, right? So, you know, what that naturally means is that I wanted to inform myself. So I kept randomly checking news, kept randomly checking like what's going to happen next, all that kind of stuff. And I realized that that was making me even more anxious and miserable. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to live under a rock. I don't want to just say, I'm going to act like that problem doesn't exist. So what I've chosen to do is consume news. Like, I've actually scheduled consuming news into my week where I'm like, okay, this is going to be the 15-30 minute window where I inform myself with what's going on in the world. But the rest of the week, I'm just not going to care. And, you know, I'm also going to talk to people in my life about how, like, I don't want you to randomly mention world events to me. I'm happy to discuss them at some point, but I don't want like a random text about it or random conversation to be started about it, where I'm just caring about my normal day, because that for me was what caused the issue. So I realized I needed some serious compartmentalization of, like, not only do I need to be more willing to hear or confront my not toxic, but uncomfortable thoughts, but I also need to compartmentalize when I make myself uncomfortable. So I'm no longer running away from it. I'm doing my job, and for myself, doing my duty to myself, but I'm also not, exposing myself to just consistently being, bombarded by this type of negativity slash stress slash anxiety, all that kind of stuff. So that was a pretty big one for me. Just like a small announcement as a follow up to that. I've been thinking very carefully. I've been kind of pondering, contemplating for a long time, maybe like 4 or 5 months, of whether or not I was going to stop posting on Twitter. I still need to have a discussion because it is important to my job. I have a lot of followers on Twitter and for advertisements and stuff for my job. But so I don't want to just say I promise I'm never going to do it again, but I'm going to have a talk with people I work with and all that, because I need to figure out. I no longer feel comfortable, nor do I feel like it is right to put any content on Twitter, or X, whatever. So this weekend, I am going to be creating a Blue Sky account. As of now, that feels like the only social media outlet that I feel comfortable with. And, I guess start from the ground up, try to build a bit of a following and keep you guys up to date on anything I'm saying or doing there. But yeah, I feel like what happened with the Nazi salute has put me over the edge. I can't, in rightful conscience, post there. So, not trying to be political, but I'm also going to state where I stand. So, that's been a relatively unsettling part of my week. But I realize, this is what you got to do. And I think it's really tough in these type of situations because there's only so much you can do. And there's a fine line between there's nothing I can do about this or not my problem, while also overly burdening yourself with responsibility. So, I'm trying to find like, this is what I can do and this is my contribution. Don't beat myself up that I'm not doing more, but also don't just turn a blind eye and act like nothing's happening. So that's the middle ground I'm searching for, and this is kind of a new concept to me. Not new, but I'm not very good at it. Is a better this whole concept of like kind of appropriately taking the right amount of responsibility. That's what I touched on in my episode 4. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm in a good headspace, I feel like, overall. And I've got some amazing things I'm looking forward to. I'm working Dream League for a few weeks in February. I've got like 2.5 weeks of normalcy before I do that. And I'm going on a little London trip with Shiver, Owen, and Blitz in a few weeks. Yeah, I mean, just life is good, I know I say all these negative things I'm thinking about or contemplating, but in my head I'm just like, but I'm still enjoying life. I don't know, like, it feels weird to say to you guys because I feel like whenever somebody says like, look at all this shit, but life's great. But I kind of feel like that's what I learned a lot from Anna Limka, is that it's quite possible to discuss and confront all of the dark or negative or stressful things that are going on in your life while also finding joy in it. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. I feel like I'm confronting a lot of these things, and it's also helping me feel and see the joy in life much more than I already was, I feel like. So thank you so much for watching, guys. And future me, if you're watching, I love you, buddy. Trying my best to look out for you. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.